These conferences, folks, are part of a strategy by Sinn Féin to raise awareness and to encourage a national conversation around the goal of a united Ireland and to create inclusive platforms for engagement on this crucially important issue.
The conference initiative is very necessary to refocus attention on the importance of building the island economy. The political will to do this has been difficult to get going, and the economic choices have not been made, and the two economies on the island are still very fragmented, and this is very sad.
In recent years, we've held very successful conferences in London, in the United States and in Canada, and these were very consciously a part of trying to reach out to the millions who make up the diaspora. But of course, it's here, it's in Ireland, the real discussion, the real engagement and the arguments and the debates, and most particularly the persuasion, must take place. And this conference is part of that process.
Within Trade Ireland, we have been working now for about 10 years to get the business communities of the two parts of the island to come together, not from any political perspective, but pure economic perspective, to cooperate on issues from trade and business development to research, innovation, logistics, supply chain, university linkages, graduate programs.
I think it's very important that the context in which North-South economic cooperation is taking place is fully understood and appreciated, that we're in a new century that's going to be dominated by Asia because they have the cash and we have the debt. And the only way we can get that cash back is to trade successfully with them. And how we should do that, should we do it separately or should we do it together? Should we adopt the rugby model whereby we play away as Irish people together, or should we adopt the soccer model where we don't? That's the kind of questions we have to ask.
You have one farmer with a piece of land that straddles both parts of the jurisdiction, where one lorry has to collect the milk from one part of the farm, another lorry collect the milk from the other part of the farm. It has to go through two different sets of pipes and into two different pasteurisation tanks, has to be packages with two different packages on two different lines, and the problems, and everybody can see that from themselves, and just the idiocy of having such types of barriers in today's economic context on businesses just doesn't make sense.
When some colleagues and I embarked about 18 months ago on our research into the cross-border region, we expected to find that businesses would be obsessed with the border. What we found was dramatically different. Competent firms in the post-Belfast Agreement era simply traded across the border. The island economy is now a reality. But we still lack all-Ireland policy frameworks that will support and strengthen the SME sector and permit firms to grow and prosper. The real partitionists are among the policymakers, not always among the business community.
The economic progress in any part of Ireland is to the benefit of all of us. There's only 6 million people on this small island, and under the North-South Ministerial Council and the bodies such as Intertrade Ireland and the tourist development, we've seen remarkable progress in promoting relationships north and south, and also promoting the island as a whole.
If you look north and south, we have two governments newly elected. They have a good chance of a full course of office. We have huge economic needs, and we have a huge demand by our populations for value for money for state spending. And all of this, in my opinion, adds up to a strong case for extending the frontiers of economic cooperation in the interests of the economic well-being of all of the 6 million people on this little island.
If I was reimagining the island of Ireland in the island economy, how would I describe it? Well, to paraphrase Sir George, I would say it's the island working together pragmatically at all levels and in all sectors, public and private, to add value to what their shared ambitions and their mutual benefit should be. And I think the time for talk is over. I think the ambition has to be delivered by action. And so what I would ask you to do this morning is, obviously, Sinn Féin has taken many risks for peace. Will it now take as equally great risks for prosperity?
All-Ireland business cooperation works, and it can be seen in our results. We're a very small organisation, 42 people in Newry, but since 2003 we provided information and advice to more than 17,000 companies, and more than 2,000 companies have been participating directly in our programmes. We've generated over 600 million worth of new business, and created or sustained more than 900 jobs. No one now seriously doubts the reality of and the economic reality of all-island cooperation.
So at a time when the economic crisis continues to be at the forefront of the minds of both politicians and the electorate, there is a real need for us as Republicans and those who believe in the concept of Irish unity to present the case for economic unity in clear, accessible and practical terms. If we do this, I believe the support for our project will grow and Irish unity will become increasingly within our reach.
While some people are annoyed and some people are angry and some people are apathetic and some people are cynical, there are enough people out there who want to bring about the type of changes that are required for us to have a society which is really reflective of the needs of our people. There are enough of them out there to actually bring these big changes around. And there are also, interestingly enough of them in the north who are now on a new voyage post-conflict of exactly what their future is and what the future is of their children.
Will provide the impetus for a new approach to actually dealing with children. Because children have been relatively invisible in our consideration. The consideration has been around the adults. And if you attend any court case, if it's in a divorce context or a judicial separation context, people talk about the property, we talk about the pensions, and you'll often hear them say, well, who got the children? So that is where we fare in the context of children.
In 2009, and that's the last year for which figures have been published, 91,954 children were living in consistent poverty in Ireland. And that's an increase of 26,684 on the 2008 figures. And I deliberately draw out every one of those figures because there was a child for every one of those figures with a name and address. And we have seen in the last 3 years all of the progress that had been made, reducing the number of children in consistent poverty. We have lost it all.
So major change is needed, a new vision, different policies, and maybe above all, a genuine determination, not just commitment, absolute determination to build a secure future and a better quality of life for our children. Bobby Sands said, famously, our revenge will be the laughter of our children. And that's the challenge for us. That's the measure for us. And that will be the measure of the new republic.
Legislation has been passed in this area for a period of a decade, and we have yet to introduce legislation. Ireland is a country that sees itself as child-led, yet has failed to protect the rights of children adequately in its constitution. Childhood doesn't stand still, pending detailed consideration of whether or not to change our constitution. Should children be forced to accept the crumbs of the constitutional table when the future of this country rests with the children of Ireland? Only when we have a referendum enshrining the rights of children in our constitution will we be in a position to say that we are a country that really does cherish all of the children of the nation equally.
Given the need to ensure child protection and given the issue of mobility across the border, how can we develop an All-Ireland sex offenders register and All-Ireland vetting for those working with children and young people?
In Ireland, in Dublin, we don't have actually any legislation for vetting. It happens, the Gardaí unit that does it deserves the height of praise for the amount of work that they put in. But we need an actual legislative base put in place for it. We don't have one.
I recommend in the strongest possible terms the need for an All-Ireland vetting system. And the logic is actually quite compelling, because in the absence of an All-Ireland vetting system, the South becomes a safe haven for uniforms. And that is the reality of the situation. And I feel that many of the politicians really haven't grasped the gravity of the absence of legislation in this area.
In 2007, UNICEF said, the true measure of a nation's standing is how well it attends to its children, their health and their safety, their material security, their education and socialisation, and their sense of being loved, valued and included in the families and societies into which they are born. I would add, of course, that their rights would be respected and provided for, and that their voices would be heard in matters that concern them. Thank you very much.
Yes, I mean, I grew up within a very staunchly unionist, loyalist tradition. I believe that we need to engage with republicanism, with nationalism. I remember Marie McAleese once said to me in our dialogue, she doesn't want to make me any less of a unionist any more than I want to make her any less of a nationalist, but we need this cross-fertilisation to understand each other and to make sure that any difference we have in future is verbal and not physical.
Having spent a long time locked up in a hole in the ground, looking at a wall and not talking to anybody, something that's valuable and very important to me is how we only have a meaningful existence if it's validated through another person, no matter who that other person is. I look forward to a republic, and I've said this before, only once before, but it's a republic of the heart, where well-being, a sense of belonging, a sense of desire, and a sense of kind of being emotionally enriched by belonging to this republic is very real and very felt. It has to be a republic of the word, where its constitution, its Bill of Rights, and everything that's written to affirm that republic affirms an inclusive and all-embracing guarantee of equality and care.
My personal preference, I guess, having grown up in that unionist tradition, is to maintain the link with the UK. But I strongly believe in meaningful relationships in the Northern Ireland context. I'm prepared to listen to republicanism as a vision as this debate unfolds, and I simply want to suggest this. There have been a number of comments in relation to task force, working parties and engagement. Does unionism, republicanism need to look at the whole concept of some task force politically, academically, religiously, community practitioners? They ask some of those questions. How do we get ourselves into this chaos, into this mess? And how do we get our way back out of this?
I've heard all the arguments about the inevitability of the United Ireland, the historic arguments, economic, demographic, political arguments about the inevitability of a United Ireland. But the dissenter in me refuses to accept predestined notions unless and until I feel that that inevitability is understood as an imperative, emotionally, intellectually, and above all, imaginatively.
Is there any level of debate, discussion, engagement within the Protestant loyalist unionist community about a United Ireland, or what would a United Ireland look like if they had a blank canvas to paint it?
I think the blueprint is there for providing the education, intellectual and linguistic and imaginative skills to find that new place, that new republic, that meaningful, responsible republic. I think a blueprint has already been laid down. It's a matter of, there's people who are resistant to it for all sorts of understandable reasons, that the status quo is safer. People are afraid of change. I'm of the opposite opinion. I think change is the most meaningful and enriching experience we can have. The reason for coming and doing this, and coming from the background that I come from, is that validation is really important. I need people not to hear what I say, but to think for themselves what I feel about what I say, and in that we find something that's shared, that's common, that's purposeful, and that doesn't separate me from you or you from me. Dialogues about this coming together, and things like this need to happen more often. To share what we feel, not what we think.